have a sewing on Bernina 475s, and they just showed us how to use them, which was nice. Pretty standard though for a sewing machine. And here's Ingrid, and then I'll show you guys the room.
Alright, how's everybody doing?
There's Andrew, the combat quilter, and Rob Appell, and Mark, the quilting marine, is running around here somewhere too, so I'll get his picture later. So there's 2 rooms of quilters. This is room number 2. Ironing stations. Here's the quilt made that goes with the Patriot quilt theme, and some of the instructors and Stitchin Heaven's things here. And this is room number 1, which is the room I'm in. There's ironing stations and all the quilters. Here's another ironing station. Lots of people. 38 in this room and 40 in the other room. This is one of the quilts that we're making called the Hero Star, taught by Andrew, the combat quilter. Okay, here's our cabin, and we came back to the room today, and we have a towel elephant. So cute. So these are the beds. Here is the bathroom. Not much to write home about, just a little small bathroom. But we've got everything all organized thanks to Ingrid. She brought lots of stuff to organize. Got all of our things hanging. So that's Ingrid's bed with the elephant, and this is my bed. Then we've got a couch over here, and a TV. And Ingrid brought all the hooks because the walls are metal, so we could hang things. We've got all of our paperwork up on the wall, a little desk area, some drawers, and our balcony. And it looks gorgeous out there today. Let's open this door. Oh, I never can figure out how to open it. It's heavy. Step out. And here is our current view. One ship out there in the distance. Other than that, it's ocean. Beautiful.
Designed with the first fabrics that are called New Worlds. Make sure I'm holding it correctly. This is a very simple strip piece background, right? And the appliques are fusible, heat and bond, feather light. And then I just cut them, after they're ironed in the back of the fabrics, I cut them with a rotary compass. And truly with this quilt, I started just throwing down the circles, but this isn't the first time I've made this kind of a quilt. And they may not be as easy to make as I make it look. I found that sometimes by overdoing it. So if you look closely, some of the art lessons I can point out is you should have the darker, larger circles near the bottom of the quilt, if I remember it correctly, and more of the smaller or lighter colored circles towards the top of the quilt. So I'm giving movement. Think of a wonderful glass of champagne or sparkling water, right? You have movement of the bubbles. So in laying this out, that's where I went to, because that's what I had done before. But because I was using all the same design prints, anywhere where I have the same print touching, I rotated the circle just right so the print repeat lays perfectly over the circle. So at a distance, you're like, oh, that's Slob Rob again, made another quilt, just easy applique. And as you get closer and closer, you get to find out more information from the quilt project. Double tumbler, and this one here features, again, the solids, the shadow blush, and my fabrics. This is a stripped piece project. There really aren't any Y seams. It's all done in rows. I have a pattern for this, and of course all of my stuff can be bought online through stitchinheaven.com. And again, working with the black as the neutral fabric that ties it all together helps you see the small block and the big block. If you've never done a tumbling blocks quilt before, one of the keys is making sure that all of the light, oh, let me slow down. It's relative to each hexagon. the lights are on the top, and you choose whether your mediums are on the right or mediums on the left, but you just keep that philosophy in every hexagon. So you'll see sometimes I'm using a fabric as a light in one hexagon or a medium in another, right? Because it's all relative. But that's the way you can help the eye see the optical illusion. And then when I quilt a quilt like this, I'm just doing a straight lines but without any ruler work to show the direction that the blocks would be running if it was wood grain and you were handling a 3D object. You've all seen this quilt as well. It's called the Bird of Paradise because it's a bird of paradise. But we'll be doing a retreat in August. I'm afraid it may be sold out at this point, but I'm doing what we're calling a fabric fusions retreat. So I'm teaching folks how to build backgrounds that are appropriate to then put their applique on top of. So by doing patchwork backgrounds, it helps the quilt maintain its integrity because now you're not just on one giant, let's say 45 by 36 inch piece of fabric. You've got all of these little squares and rectangles and all that thread holding the background together. So of my fabric line so far, because this was the quilt that I was stressed in my life. And this was the quilt where I was starting to hit a little depression about 4 months ago or so. Now, I am a recovering alcoholic. February is my anniversary month, so I hit 12 years in February. Usually around that time, I struggle. And I'm so excited, I don't know why I struggle, but sometimes I just struggle. I'm a human. Hey, anyone else in the room just sometimes struggle? Right?
It's just deeply emotional.
Yeah, yeah. So what I needed at that moment was bright colors around me. So I took my bin of scraps and I just dumped them on the table, and I wanted to make, and again, this was shortly after the New Year's sew-along, so I wanted to, during our New Year's, we get a lot of new eyes. A lot of folks that maybe want to try quilting or didn't know what quilting was all about or something like that. So it's a great time to do a lot of beginner-friendly quilt projects. So I wanted to take the log cabin block. There's one of them in here that's probably a good one. And then the other ones are great, right? Because the other ones have more organic movement to them. So I was just teaching how to burn your scraps and play with color and build what I call the easiest log cabin ever, because it's all just wonky but follows the rules of having your hearth or your fireplace in the center of your home and playing with different size and quantities and things.
I love that.
Thank you, and I really enjoyed it as well. And the quilt top was so special to me that when I celebrated my 12-year anniversary, I always go on some sort of an adventure to christen my newest coin that's in my pocket. And so there had been a ton of rain in California, and there's this waterfall I used to go to when I was a kid, and it was a wild 4x4 drive to get back to it. So my buddy Ed, he's my partner in crime in California, he loaded up with me, and we got the cameras in the car, and I went out into the bush to film, and I took just the quilt top with me, so we'd have a little bit of color, took some really great photos. And then when I got out to Texas, we've just hired, we're been growing constantly, right? So we hired a camera operator that works 40 hours a week at Stitchin Heaven, doing retreat video, doing all kinds of photography and stuff. And so one of the hardest things for a videographer, self-videographer, when I'm filming myself to do is capture free motion quilting. Because everything's moving constantly, I can't quilt while watching my screen. Next, shadow blush with the New Worlds.
I love that.
And then because I'm on now to Newer Worlds, I have another 9 fabrics. So it's well, it's more than 9. Let me slow down. It's 9 more like the first 9. 3 prints, 3 colors each. But then I'm going to have stripes, a dark stripe with all the colors, a light stripe with all the colors, and then I also have 2 different wide backs that have come out. So this wide back here, right, that's my glowing bubbles. And what's really fun about this is I've learned to draw digitally, but the original design from this is done with a colored pencil and a Sharpie marker in one of my sketchbooks. And I have tried to give this design away to my former employer, and I gotta say, I'm pretty excited to be getting paid for it now. Yeah. 9 colors in it together. So this is mixing New Worlds and Newer Worlds. Am I holding it right side up?
We don't know. Of course.
No. Yes, you do know. Yes, you do know the lights go on top. I had to ask because I haven't put a label. Now you know why you have to put a label on your quilt.
This
So when
way.
you're doing your show and tell, you know you're holding it in the appropriate direction.
Right.
Okay, so this is all 9 colors working together. So the first were like neon brights, and now these are kind of more jewel tones coming in, and then the gray. And then the last version will be more like sage and grays and taupes, more of that earthy earth tones. And then I want to do a 4th follow-up line. So I've got New Worlds, Newer Worlds. Next year comes out Newest Worlds, right? And I wanted to then, I came up with a new idea, finally a clever name, Neutral Worlds, which would be low volume neutral. So like the Bird of Paradise, printed on creams and grays and beiges with bright colors and a little bit more negative space. Moda did a line like that a few years ago and I absolutely love it. Here's the blue.
Nice.
That's the blue, or just get some ideas. I'm calling it Borrowed Time because I borrowed one of the blocks from the New Year's Mystery Quilt in January and added to it, and I was running out of time to get the instructions written, so I Tom Sawyered the marketing director at Benartex to do all the math and diagrams for me. Don't tell her, I actually can do that stuff on my own. So this is called Borrowed Time, and it only features Newer Worlds.
Nice.
So that's the new 9 if you want to study those.
Nice.
And it's a easy 12 block project. They're 20-inch blocks, so the black and white checkery sash you're seeing is part of the block. Did you get the picture?
Nice. Yeah.
So this is deck 6, the boardwalk deck. It's really neat. There's a Zoltar machine. If any of you are old enough to be familiar with the movie Big from back in the 80s, this is the one that Tom Hanks made a wish on and became big. And here's the carousel. Really pretty. It's a whole carousel on board. There's a hot dog place. And a Starbucks. And all kinds of shops. This one looks like it's a swim shop. And there's this one called Sundials, which has sunglasses. There's an arcade over here. Lots of places to sit. Definitely quieter than deck 5. And Sabor, which is a restaurant bar here. And there's the Johnny Rockets. And here are the 5-story slides. And now these are not water slides, these are dry slides. So if you don't like water slides and you want to be a kid, you can go down these. So this is deck 6. Also on deck 6, you can access the rock climbing walls, which they are putting to bed for the night right now. And right here is what they call the Aqua Theater. They have that floor that's down there disappears, and that's a pool, and they have some acrobats and things swing from bungees and kind of plunge down into the water and do all kinds of things. So, kind of neat.